What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Corked Stats here on the Mayo Media Network on YouTube with your host, John Laghezza, Big Johnny Stud, coming to you worldwide from Brooklyn, New York. As always, coming out the chair. As always, getting you prepped for the MLB season. As always, welcome back. Again, please hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And you gotta check out the baseball playlist. While those idiots were arguing over the CBA, we were getting the library ready, fattening that goose up for the big feast, and the time to eat is now. So make sure you check out the playlist, the Fantasy Baseball Picks and Bets playlist. You can get that on audio. Also, subscribe to the podcast. You can check out my work on Twitter, MLB Averages, at MLB Moving AVG. Enough of that. Let's get into this. There's so much to do and so little time to do it. The hot stove is starting to heat up. And if you notice the background, we're up in the Boogie Down Bronx where my Yankees have brought in the Rainmaker, 36-year-old Josh Donaldson, the big slugger coming over from Minnesota with IKF, Isaiah Kiner Falafel. And I believe going back the other way was Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. We're going to worry about Josh Donaldson today. He was already fantasy relevant, but let's take a look to see just exactly where he spots now, moving him into the Yankees lineup, where you're going to get all the delicious counting stats you could possibly stomach, plus a ton of protection. I mean, just right off the bat, I don't even know where you slot in a guy like Donaldson between Judge and Stanton, right after Stanton. I don't know. Let's get into the good stuff. Again, if you're unfamiliar to my work, thank you, everybody. You're coming here for all the context, all the nuance. I'm going to walk you through our statistical baskets. I like to break players up into, their surface stats. That's the outputs. We're looking more for the inputs. I like to look at players in terms of discipline, elevation, batted ball quality. We're going to get out the projections, and then after we're done with everything, we'll come to a conclusion and see what we think. As always, let's begin with the tail of the tape. Up there you see last year's stats for Donaldson. His ADP right now at 193. He's the 19th third baseman going off the board. Now, he was already in the American League. People were worried about the calf and worried about the playing time. He did give you a pretty good load last year. The Yankees have been very good at rotating. I think Donaldson will play a bunch of third, but I also think he's going to get a bunch of days off. The Yankees, I know people are laughing, but the Yankees have instituted that yoga program, which is weird. I don't know why people would be laughing at a several thousand-year-old proven technique to keep people limber. So it seemed to work. Judge and Stanton have both played more than ever. They look great. It's not all about muscle. So hopefully some of that will rub off onto Donaldson. What I'm getting at is the Yankees have actually been better at caring for the offensive bats. So maybe we can see a repeat. 135 games, 543 plate appearances. The average was at 250, 73 runs, 72 ribbies with 26 home runs. But I think a lot of those numbers are expected to pop up. So again, let's take a little bit more of a little detailed look at last year. So, a lot of the batting averages were always going to be good. The OBP really high at 350 because the walk rate is so high. Donaldson has a fantastic eye, 827 OPS, a 353 WOBA good for a 124 WRC plus. All of the expected stats just off the chart. 533 expected slug, 385 xWOBA. Let's get into the discipline. 21% K on the season, which is excellent when you're getting that kind of pop with a 14% walk rate. Like I mentioned, a single-digit K- walk is phenomenal. One thing to notice, even though Donaldson's in-zone contact rate seems a bit low at 81.5%, his chase rate is one of the best in the league, down at 26. So that's actually not so bad. He doesn't chase. We want our power hitters to be aggressive because of the contact. He puts the ball in the air a lot, which accounts for the low batting average. And then, of course, the power stats are all going to be really, really good. So overall, we're talking about a very good hitter. Again, the question is going to be health. And let's dive a little bit deeper in yet again. So for the audio-only listeners, you're going to see there are two graphs up. I like to use rolling charts and 40-game samples to give us a better idea of trend indication, in particular with statistics that we know have a smaller stabilization rate. They stabilize quicker is what I mean to say. So particularly disciplinary stats, which I believe are in the hitter's control, or as much in the hitter's control as can be, opposed to batted ball events, which are wonky. Round ball, round bat, we don't know what's going to happen. Show me the K rates, show me the contact rates, but then more so, I want to see the trend. So up on the left, you have your K percentage, 40-game rolling K going back through 2019, and on the right is your in-zone contact rate. That one's going back to 2020. And again, I just wanted to point out the trends here. So I mentioned the K rate for Donaldson down at 21%. Man, it's been trending down. You don't have to be a market whiz, a technical analysis to see what was hanging in the high 20s up near 30 in 2019. We saw start to head down in 2020. That trend continue. Then it popped back up. But this is the thing I wanted to mention. If you look at any kind of stock chart, nothing moves up or down in perpetuity. There's always going to be ebbs and flows, which is why we want to change our perspective as far as time frame. So the K rate has been trending down, which is really good. And again, if he can hang around that 20% mark, wow, Donaldson going to do damage. I mentioned the low in-zone contact rate. That also has been trending in the right direction. Maybe not too old for this old dog to learn new tricks. We know that number had been hanging down in the 60s and the 70s. Now we saw it kind of hang around more around 80 and finish the season up in the high 80s. If Donaldson takes off from there, we're talking about getting into some elite categories. So the discipline is very good. The lift is very good, although, like I said, we must keep in mind what that does to batting average. Now let's get into the barbecue. What are we talking about? BBQ is your batted ball quality. Up on the screen, you'll see again another custom chart. I like to visualize things. I also find it helps for listeners, subs, and maybe newer players to see these things. What you see are Josh Donaldson's power metrics up against the league average. Now, I do know we have podcast listeners. I would recommend that you try and get over to YouTube or over to my Twitter handle, and I will post these graphics up if you want to take a bit longer to digest them. And again, no surprise here. Hard hit rate via StatCast. Josh Donaldson, elite. Top 20 in the league, hits the ball hard more than 53% of the time, opposed to the league average hanging right around 40. His barrel rate at 17, nearly double the league average of 8. His blast rate, which is the ideal subset of barrels, at 9%, more than double the 4% league average. His dynamic hard hit rate, more than double the league average. What are we getting at? Donaldson is a boss. And last year, the sub 19% home run to fly ball means we could be expecting even more. Gotta shine a bit more of a light on these power statistics for Donaldson and where they rank among the field. Nothing short of elite. I mentioned the top 20 in hard hit rate. He was 15th overall in barrel percentage. You see the xWOBA up on the top, 385 xWOBA, 465 expected WOBA on contact. That's right below Rafael Devers. It's right above Jordan Alvarez. Those players are going in the second round of drafts. Josh Donaldson's power basket is up there with both of those guys. So, man, as we get through this basket, I'm having a hard time seeing maybe why in the first place Donaldson was even going so late, in particular if we're referring to leagues that have waiver wire ads or fab or injured spots. Man, as you get to replace this guy, we don't know when injuries are going to happen. You gotta want to roll him out. I'm already thinking about pushing him up boards. But before we do any of that and think about our own projections, I like to go to the experts. My favorite projection system is the BatX run by Derek Carty. Not only do I consider him objectively brilliant and my friend, but I find his projection systems, I don't like them the most because they align the most with my own, but they do align the most with what I believe will happen because Derek uses StatCast metrics to draw up hitter profiles very similar to myself. And I think there's something to be said there. I do like to be thought of as being very analytical. I don't like to be thought of as someone that just reads numbers, right? That's not what we want. And that's why I think it's so important to put those stats into buckets so they make sense, right? It's not just three numbers. It's good discipline. It's good elevation and good batted ball quality. And in combination is where you get the greatness. So Derek Carty was already tweeting about the adjustments. I do have the brand new BatX projections up for Donaldson. He is being projected to return more than $10. So for his draft cost, that is a tremendous profit relatively. The playing time looks about the same, although remember, the Bat outsources its playing time projections What I would like to say is this, the big lesson, and this goes for every player, and that's stuff that I really like to leave people with, is perhaps tools to use in the future, maybe a feather in the cap. And it's, if you disagree with the playing time, but you'd still like to use the bat projections, right? And say, man, I just don't agree with the plate appearances, but I don't really have the wherewithal or know the calculations of doing these. No problem. I spoke to Derek. He said, you just adjust them. Just when you fine tune the playing appearances, the plate appearances, all the other things will move as a rate. He said you have no problem doing that. That's how the math gets done. So that's just fantastic. Here you have your rate, and you can adjust it up or you can adjust it down. If you think, Donaldson somehow gets 700 plate appearances, which I do not think will happen, then, you got to adjust that 31. You got to adjust the 80 runs. You got to adjust the 78 ribbies, all of which might be a touch low in a Yankee lineup that was already pretty good and has now shed some fat. I mean, not like Urshela was even bad, but Sayonara, Sanchez, he could hit bombs. His power wasn't there. I mean, the Yankee lineup is getting better every hour. You also got to hang on the edge of your seat. They may be bringing in Matt Olson in the trade with the A's soon. That's my gut feeling. So the Bat X agrees with me pretty much across the board. We're going to get power. We're going to get counting stats. The average will be suppressed, but it won't be terrible. I think the runs will be much higher because of the walk rate I mentioned. Basically, if you're going to have a 15% walk rate on the Yankees, I just think you're going to get 100 runs if you make 565 plate appearances. So, feel free to adjust those as you like. But the bottom line is the Bat X agrees Donaldson is going to be very, very effective. So, in conclusion, man, get in those draft rooms, and you got to be pushing up Donaldson right now, 19th third baseman. No. Third base already being thought of as a weaker position. I can't see why Donaldson's not a 3B1. So right off the top of my bat, I got to get him into the top 15. I think in point leagues, especially when we're not worried so much about things like average, where his walk rate translates to OBP, Donaldson gets pushed even further. But I might say Donaldson might be a top 6 or top 8 third baseman. So make sure if you're playing in 12-team head-to-head point leagues, you circle Josh Donaldson. You pretty much want him in every single league because he could hang with a player like Austin Riley who's going rounds ahead of him. He should be thought of probably on the level as like a Justin Turner, but maybe even better as far as counting stats because, again, I'm really not a Yankee homer. I love the Yankees. My blood and my son's nursery are both pinstriped. But I'm generally very pessimistic on them, and I'm not a big fan of the way they've run things lately. But this is an upgrade, and especially, like I said, in those point leagues with OBP. With the roto formats, the average is not going to kill you. And if you're in a league with replacement where you can get fab, the second that corner infield spot is open, I'm not sure you're going to be able to do much better than Josh Donaldson. Guys like Bobby Dalbec has snuck up around ADP 200. You got to want Donaldson first because you're talking about the professional hitter. Yeah, a guy like Dalbec is the age, and we're hoping for the prospect of a tick up in discipline. But Donaldson, it's already there. The context is great. So it's all systems go. Wheels up for Donaldson. Yes, I do have my concerns about the calf, but no, I'm not going to pretend to know when those injuries are going to happen. It could happen in game 5, but it could happen in game 155. It could happen in the playoffs well after the fantasy season is open. It could not happen at all, and Josh Donaldson returns second-round value because of the batted ball quality I mentioned and the counting stats you're going to get with the Yankees. You have to be open to the idea that he could play the whole year, be more of a DH, because Stanton has played more outfield than usual. The same for Judge. Those guys, like I said, getting a little slimmer, getting a little more limber, whatever you think of that. The fact is they have been playing more. Again, we don't know how injuries are going to affect them, so I don't pretend to know the future. I just try and put myself and you in a strong probabilistic scenario to succeed, and I think Josh Donaldson at the price does exactly that. So I really hope you like the video and what we're doing here every Monday and Friday, bringing you videos on the Mayo Media Network where we're really trying to get granular, right? We're taking you through the past, but we're also trying to help you look into the future with more than just reading projections. Where we're busting out the charts, we're busting out the graphs, we're looking at the comparison to the league average, and then, of course, projections and the price before we come to a conclusion. So please like the video. Subscribe to the channel. If you really like what we're doing, there's also a Corked Stats YouTube channel. There's a couple of videos over there. Whenever I have some extra time, I will put something there. I also have the Corked Stats audio podcast. That content is completely different. It's more strategy stuff. I've had some very popular high stakes players on the show. I also have episodes that I call the Counterpoint, where I listen to a lot of podcasts, and what I do is I actually counter them. I either retort, counter, or expand on them. A lot of times they give you a good idea, and that great rap line, they had a hot line, I make it a hot song. But a lot of times, sometimes that's really what we need, to expand a little bit further on those priors, or even something we may have learned before we overreact to analysis from any of our favorite podcasters. So that'll do it. Thank you so much for picking up what we're putting down. We really do appreciate you. We're all very, very, very excited about the upcoming MLB season. Please stay tuned for more fantasy goodness. And we have all the betting content ready to go. I am chomping at the bit. The futures tickets are being worked on right now. We're getting ready for daily betting. This is my favorite time of year. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Check me out on Twitter, and I'll catch you all on the flip side. Remember, when you work this hard, it feels a lot less like luck, everybody. Peace.